Google Developer Student Clubs train hundreds of thousands of university student developers globally while having fun getting to know other students at their school. Google selects students with strong leadership skills from across the globe once a year to start a club on their campus. These leads believe knowledge is power and that technology can do extraordinary things for the world. They take on the responsibility to help students learn and empower each other to solve real problems around them. Students can participate in the annual Solution Challenge by Google developers to solve for one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Join us in building a global community for students in technology.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session 3 of Android Study Jam. I'm Dana Al-Sibai, and I'm a GDSC workshop co-lead for Sheridan College. Welcome, everyone, and big shout out to Sheridan College friends who are joining us today. In our session today, we'll be learning how to build a basic layout, basically how to add image, text to your application. And before we get started, just a quick reminder, please make sure to sign in, fill out the form to get a chance to win a prize. And you guys, if you are wondering what the prize is, it's the Google Developer Student Club backpack. So make sure to use a valid email to be able to reach out to you. We will be doing the raffle during the break. So check the link. It will be posted in the chat. And yeah, this is our today's schedule. We will be going over the basic layout. We will be creating a birthday card app, and then we will head into a 5 minutes break. After the break, we will add an image to the Android app that we built. Also, remember to post your question in the chat. Our team will make sure to pass them to the speaker, and we have people that will make sure to answer your questions. So yeah, post them in the chat anytime. Please join me in welcoming our Android developer experts, Sarah O'Brien. She will join us today to teach us about the basic layout. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We're so excited about what we're going to learn today.
I am excited too. I get more excited each one of these that we go a little bit deeper into this curriculum and lean into more Android development. So I'm excited as well.
Yes, that's awesome. So the floor is yours. You
Awesome.
can just get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for having me. Shout out to our host, Sheridan College. And then, yes, I'm Sierra, as always, joining from Cincinnati, Ohio. Really excited to be here, see some people that I have seen before. So welcome back. If anyone is here new for the first time, welcome. And then with that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into our content today. Dana, I do need to have my screen share. Oh, maybe it's switched. I will need to, I cannot tell if that's my screen. I think it's mine now. Okay, great, thanks. So today we are going to work on the user interface of our app, which is going to be the part of the app where the user interacts with it. We're going to be on Pathway 3. And so in Pathway 3, we'll learn the basic concept of customizing the user interface of a simple app. The user interface, also known as the UI of your app, includes what the app looks like and how the user interacts with it. So we're going to go ahead and get started right away. And so we're going to go to the link that we always go to find our code labs, which is going to be g.co/android/basics. Once there, you should see that we're entering our Android Basics and Kotlin course like we always do. And so we're again going to jump right into Unit 1, the Kotlin Basics. And once we're in our Kotlin Basics, Unit 1, we have our we see our pathways that we've already done, pathways 1 and 2. And so we're going to go into pathway 3, which is going to be our Android basics, build a basic layout. And in this particular part of the code lab, we're going to learn how to add images and text to your Android apps. And so I know our host has already said it. It's already been posted in the chat, but please feel free to ask any questions that you have as we go along. Drop those in the chat. I will stop. We will answer them, and we'll talk about them as a group as well. So with that, I think that's the last slide I have. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and jump in. So if you are following along, you should be, I'm going to go to this. You should have landed on our build a basic layout. And so at the top, again, like all of the different sections that we have already done, you'll see a video. I definitely recommend that you go back and watch these. They're usually really short and just give you a little context for what we're doing. And then we're going to go ahead and get started with creating a birthday card app. So this is a part of the code lab that we'll get done before our break, and then we'll come back and add images to that app after the break. So we're going to go ahead and take this code lab and jump into the introduction. So just like last week, you're going to need Android Studio for this code lab. And so again, I recommend that that's what you have up. You don't have this video or the slides up. And I will talk you through each step of the way and try to call out anything. And then you can always jump back to what I'm doing if you get stuck or need to catch up or not sure what I'm saying or where we are in the code lab. So about this particular code lab, in this code lab, we're going to build a simple Android app. So last time we built the application just using the basic activity and understood kind of what the different parts of that application were. And today we're actually going to modify a simple Android app, and it's going to display text. We'll be able to position that text on the screen by understanding more about the user interface components in Android. We, of course, meet all of our prerequisites. And so we know how to create a new app. We learned that last week. And we know how to run it on an emulator. We also did that last week as well. And this time I have a different laptop, so it will actually build for me. What we're going to learn about is we're going to learn about the user interface elements, such as views and view groups. We're going to learn how to display text in a text view in our app. And we're going to learn how to set attributes such as text, font, and margin on a text view. And what we're going to go ahead and build is this Android app that's here on the first page of this code lab. It's going to say happy birthday, Sam, and it's going to say from your name here when we're done. So let's go ahead and jump into step 2 of our code lab, which is setting up our happy birthday project. So in this step, we're going to do exactly what we did last week, and we're going to create a new project. Now I have to do it on 2 different places. So we'll again select an empty activity just like last time. And this time we actually named it this last time too, is happy birthday. And we can know everything we need to know about package name, location, language, and all of these different pieces. And so we can go ahead and click finish and let our project show up. And again, like last time, it takes just a couple of seconds this week, hopefully, for the Gradle to build and everything to set up. Android Studio also always gives really useful tip of the days. I must always close them, but they do have useful information. And so I recommend using those when they pop up. And then our first step for this is going to be running our application. We know kind of what that's going to look like because we picked a hello world last time, or the empty activity last time. We picked that empty activity again. Everything's going to look exactly the same as last time. Once we start building it, it's going to say hello world in the middle of our screen and say happy birthday at the top in that app bar. Woo, look how fast that was. All right, so we know how to run our application on an emulator, so we're going to go ahead and do that step. That emulator is going to have to spin up because I don't have one running yet. And so we see it connecting to the emulator. Our emulator is up. Close that. And it's going to go ahead and build. So while that's happening, let's go ahead and talk about user interfaces so that we can get ahead of the game and jump right into the code after this runs. So the user interface, or UI, as it's often abbreviated, is going to be the user UI of an app, is what you're going to see on this screen. So any application that you look at any screens that you see there is considered the UI. So that's going to include things like text, buttons, images, and other types of elements. In Android, each of these elements is going to be called a view. And so that's also how they're often named, is kind of what they do, and then the word view after them. So we have things like text view, image view, we have just buttons. And so almost everything that you see on the screen of your app is a view. And views can also be interactive, like a clickable button or editable text input. So like when you have to put in your username and password, that would be an input field. In this code lab, we will be working with a kind of view that is for displaying text. And so that name of that particular view is going to be a text view. The views in the Android system aren't, though, just going to display on your screen with no organization. And so when we want to have these views related to each other, we have to use a view group to organize those views. A view group is just going to be a container that view objects can sit in, and it is responsible for arranging the views inside of it. The arrangement or the layout, I often use view group and layout interchangeably, can change depending on the size and the aspect ratio of the screen of the Android device that the app is running on. And the layout can adapt to whether the device is in portrait or landscape mode. And you probably see this with a lot of the apps that you use. If you're running something on your phone versus a tablet, the layout is going to change depending on which kind of display it is on. And also you might see layouts change as you change from a portrait mode to landscape mode as well. In this particular code lab, we're going to be using a specific kind of view group called a constraint layout, which helps you arrange views in a very flexible way, constrained to each other. And it actually ends up being one of my favorite layout types. All right, so we see that our app has built, and we do see that hello world and happy birthday. So the next section of this code lab is just going to talk about the layout editor that we're going to use for the next several steps. And so a fun fact is that I do not often use the layout editor. And so I actually learned a lot when I was preparing for this particular code lab. I started Android many years ago, and there weren't nearly as many nice features. And so I think that I still develop Android in a somewhat archaic way on my personal device. And so this is one of those really cool features that has come a long way in the last few years and made it really easy to interactively kind of drag and drop your layouts and not necessarily have to interact with XML too much, which is awesome. So with that, this code lab is going to describe what you kind of see with the layout editor. And so I am going to go ahead and pull that up so we can talk about the different sections, kind of like they do in the code lab. So I'm just going to open a layout so that we can see those different pieces and close my emulator for the moment. So now I'm in a very similar view to what you see in the code lab. So number one, in the code lab, the first thing that they kind of annotate in their description is just the project view. And we just talked in depth about the project view last time. It's going to display the project structure and all of our different files in our particular system. Next, they talk about number 4 and 5, which is these two big previews in the middle of my screen right now. And so 4 and 5 represent the screen layout for your application. The representation on the left, so the one with the white background, is a close approximation to what your screen should look like when the app runs. And with this, you can also switch what kind of device that you want that to preview on. So right now we're using a phone. We could switch it to something else as well to see those different options. Next, we also have, and then they say that number 5 is going to be the blueprint view, which can be used for specific app operations. Up here, in between our preview and our project view, we have a section labeled palette. And the palette contains a list of different types of views that you can add to your application. Number 3 is the component tree, which is a different representation of the views on your screen. So we have lots of different ways to see our screen in this particular layout editor view. And on the far right, so all the way over on the right, we have attributes. Again, all of these different sections are kind of labeled at the top to help you identify them in your own Android Studio. And the attributes are different things that you can set on your view. And so we're going to actually use each one of these sections throughout this throughout this code lab, so you'll be able to get a much better feel for what they are and not just hear me verbally describing them. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is open your activity main XML. So I already went ahead and did this step just so that we could see the project view on my screen. So now it's time to switch over to your Android Studio view, stop watching me talk, and start looking at your own screen so that you can make these changes as we go along. So to do this, when you opened up your project, you have this project view on the side. And so we can open now the res folder, so RES. Last time we kind of looked inside this Java folder and all these tests. This time we're going to look at this res folder, and then we'll expand the layouts underneath. That res stands for resources, and it's going to hold all the different resources that we use in the app, and that's going to include strings, our layouts, different images that we can use in the application, and a lot of other different things. So we'll expand the layouts, and then we'll just double click on activity main, and you should be able to see your layout. Depending on how your Android Studio is configured, you may need to change at the top, the very top right. You'll see code, split, and design. So you might have to click that design to get into this layout editor view as well. So the first thing that we're going to do now that we have this open is look at our component tree. So we already kind of saw this, is that we see here in our component tree, we see the top level is a constraint layout. We said we we're going to be using a constraint layout throughout this code lab. And then underneath that, we have a text view. This is going to represent the UI of our application. And so what this is saying is that we have our text view inside this view group, this constraint layout. And so we can kind of see that hierarchy displayed here visually. As we add more views to our constraint layout, they'll be added to this list in the order that they're added to the application. Next to this, we also see next to our text view, the hello world. And so that's the text that is going to be displayed inside that text view. So it gives you a little hint about what's going to be displayed there. And if we click on this text view, then we now also get these attributes along the right side of your screen as well. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is find the declared attributes. Mine by default, we're at the top. But if they are not, you can always close any of these or unexpand any of these to find them quickly as well. So if it's not immediately at the top, you can close them all down and find the one that you're looking for. And so inside this declared attributes, we can find that we see our text here says hello world. And so the text attribute specifically of a text view is going to be the text that is displayed inside that text view. So the first thing that we're going to do is a really simple change and make this update and say, happy birthday. So enter. And we see that that text is going to immediately display on our screen, which is awesome. And so after you change happy birthday, you'll just want to hit enter to immediately see that on your screen. We also notice that there's now a little warning over by our text view that says hard-coded text. And we'll come back and fix that particular warning in the second part of this code lab. And so now we can again run our application. It's still running on our emulator. And we'll see that our design shows up on our emulator as well. So now it also says happy birthday in our text view, which is awesome. So we've now officially made our first change to an Android app. So let's go ahead and move on to section 3, which is going to be adding text views to our layout. So I'm going to go ahead and close my emulator back and move back into just my layout editor to make these changes. The birthday card app that we're building is going to look different than the app that we have right now. Obviously, we have that text view at the top and we have that text view at the bottom. And so in this particular part of the code lab, we're going to first delete the existing text view, and then we're going to add 2 new text views and learn a little bit about constraint layout while we're doing it. So in our text editor, we're going to go to our component tree and maybe. Man, this is the problem with new laptops, and it set up something right. It's very easy way to delete that. So I am going to go ahead and delete that from, oh, I only deleted one thing. Delete the wrong thing. There we go. I am going to, getting used to new keyboard is tough luck live. and delete that from my constraint layout. And so now my constraint layout is empty. That view is immediately gone from both my component tree and my actual view. So the next thing that we're going to do is now add a new text view. So from this palette that we talked about earlier, the palette that's going to have all the different kind of views that we can add, we can just drag this text view directly from that palette into the upper left corner. And the exact positioning doesn't super matter, and leave our text view there. So now I have a text view displayed, and so it has the default text of text view in it. And we also see that now we have our text view in our constraint layout in our component tree. So it's one indented inside our constraint layout. And then now we also have an actual warning in that component tree that says missing constraints and constraint layout check badge for details. We'll fix this in the next step. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually position our text view. We already saw the app that we're trying to build. It's positioned right up in the top right, or top left, kind of where it is right now, but we're going to make that official and set some margins on that as well. So now over in our attributes, we're now going to look for the layout section. So I had closed all of mine down so that we can easily see all of the different sections in the attribute pane of our layout editor. And so I'm going to go ahead and expand the layout one. And so I see my constraint widget there now. So you should also see the same. And you'll see that there's two warnings inside this constraint layout widget right now. One that says not horizontally constrained and the other says not vertically constrained. And we're going to need both of those to be true so that our layout knows where that text view should be inside our view group. So we're going to go ahead and click on the top plus sign on that constraint in that constraint widget. So we have 4 little blue plus signs around each side. So we're going to click on the top one first to create the top constraint. And so that will by default constrain our text view, the top of our text view to the top of our constraint layout parent view group. And it, by default on mine, again, sets it to 16 dp of padding. If I wanted to edit that, I could go ahead and say, oh, I want 40. And I'll see that my text view now immediately jumps down from that 16 dp of padding to 40 dp of padding. In this case, I want it to stay at 16, so I'm going to change it back. Now we're going to do the same for the left margin. So we're going to click on the blue plus sign on the left side of our constraint widget. And so when we do that there, we again also get 16. And so if yours wasn't already perfectly lined up to 16 dp on the top and left side of our text view, your widget may have your text view may have jumped around just a little bit. And again, if I want to change this from 16 to 40, we'd see my text view kind of shift in there as well. And I go ahead and change it back to 16 again. So now our text view is constrained both vertically and horizontally by constraining the top to the top of our view group and the start to the start of our view group as well. The next thing that we're going to do is change the text. We already saw how to do this in the first part. So in the declared attributes, we see the text attribute. And so right now it says text view. And so we can go ahead and change that to happy birthday, Sam. Exclamation point. And so again, when you hit enter there, it should automatically update. And so we now see that our design and our preview here is going to match what we kind of start to see our app coming together. So now we're going to go through the exact same process for the bottom one. So we saw what we're trying to get to at the end of this code lab. And so we have this happy birthday in the top left. And we're going to also have from your name here in the bottom right. So let's go ahead and drag another text view. This time we're going to try to put it right into the bottom. And then we're going to this time constrain our right side and our bottom, whereas with our happy birthday Sam, we constrained our top and our left side of our view. So this time we're going to first add a plus sign to click on the plus side button for the right. And this time by default, I got it at 20. I missed 16. Change that to 16. So mine jumps over just a little bit. And then on the bottom, I'm at 21, so I need to change that to 16 as well. So now it's correctly positioned. And then we're also, again, going to set up our text. And so I'm going to say from Sierra. And then hit enter. And now I have Happy Birthday, Sam in my upper left and from Sierra in my bottom right. So congratulations to everyone following along. You have now added and positioned some UI elements into your application. So with that, we're going to move on to section 4, which is going to be styling our text. So we've added text to our user interface, and it doesn't yet look like our final application. The final text is a lot bigger and a little bit more different. And so this time we're going to learn how to set the size, the text color, and other attributes that are going to affect the appearance of the text displayed in that text view. And we can experiment with different fonts during this step. So we're going to click on the first text view from in our component tree, so our Happy Birthday, Sam. And we're going to now look into our attributes. And so I'm going to close declared attributes and layout, and we're going to open up common attributes this time. And inside common attributes, the one above from the bottom, so you should see alpha, and then right above that is text appearance. We're going to also expand text appearance. And in here, we have a bunch of different things that we can change to make our text look awesome. So the first thing that we're going to do is by default, all of our text is going to be 14 SP. And SP, a lot like DP, we talked about DP last time. SP stands for scaled pixels, and it lets our text scale if someone changes the font size in their settings. And so it's really important for accessibility in your Android application. So we're going to change that 14 SP to 36 SP. And so again, when you hit enter after setting that, it immediately changes size on your screen. And so Happy Birthday, Sam has become much bigger for us now. Next, we're going to work on changing the font family. So we changed text size right in the middle. And so right under text appearance is font family. Right now it's set to sans serif. And if we click on that drop down, we can see a lot of different text that we could change it to. So for example, we can change it to casual, and it looks kind of like it's handwritten. We could change it to cursive, and it becomes a cursive text. In our case, we're going to change it to sans serif light, but you can definitely mess around with these different text. There's also ways to pull in different text that are not in different fonts that are not include this drop down list, which we might learn later in this series. So let's go ahead and select sans serif light. And so we see Happy Birthday, Sam. And then the last thing that we want to do is change the font color. And so that's going to be this text color attribute in our common attributes. And so we can start typing out black. And so as we type out, I just have BL typed into mine. I can see all the different colors that Android has included that has those two letters in it. So there are a lot of colors that we can choose, but we're going to go ahead and type out the word black and then choose at Android color black. And our font again changes. So now we have Happy Birthday, Sam. It's in size 36 SP, and it is black font. And so now we're going to do the exact same thing for our from Sierra or from your own name here. So when we click on Sierra, we can again click on that directly in the design. So that's how I often do it. You can click on it from the component tree. But once you do that, the attributes for this particular text view show up, and we can make those changes as well. So we know we're going to make it 36 SP. Hit enter, it immediately grows. We're going to change it from sans serif to sans serif light. And then we're going to change the text color to black. Android color black. Boom. And congratulations again for everyone following along. We have now taken the first steps to creating our birthday card app. So I'm going to jump back over to our code lab. We are now on step 5, which is just a reminder that the solutions for all of these code labs are out on Google's GitHub, so you can always go and find them. If you're following along, you should be at the end and be matching it already. But if you need to go back, look at it again, that solution code is available in this code lab. They do call out specific instructions here to open a new project in Android Studio. So far, when we've been doing things here, we've started a new project. And so if you are opening a project from GitHub or after you download it, here are some directions to help you out with that to get started. So let's go ahead and go to next. So we're on section 6, which is just a summary of what we've learned during this code lab. We learned that the layout editor helps us create the UI for your Android app. Almost everything that you see on your screen is a view. A text view is a UI element for displaying text in your app. A constraint layout is a container for other UI elements. Views need to be contained horizontally and vertically within the constraint layout. One way to position a view is with a margin. A margin says how far the view is from the corner, from the edge of the container it's in. And you can add attributes on a text view like font, text size, and color. And then, like all of our code labs, if you want to learn more about this, that information is awesome. Helpful links are also in our Learn More section. So the vocabulary for Android Basics. You can go straight to the documentation for view, text view, constraint layout. You can learn more about the difference between DP versus SP. And there's lots of links to help you make the most out of the layout editor. And so with that, we are done with this code lab, and we are going into a break and a raffle. And when we come back, we'll learn how to add images to that application.
That was awesome. That was super nice. Thank you, Sarah. All right, everyone. So if you didn't sign in yet, so please do so. This is the prize that you will get a chance to win it if you fill the form. The form, you can find the link to the form in the chat. So please feel free to fill in the form. We'll go into 5 minutes break, grab a coffee, I don't know, glass of water. I don't know if you get enough time to grab your coffee, but just like stand up, stretch up, do something, fill the form, and get back to us in 5 minutes. All right, bye for now. right, everyone, welcome back. Hopefully, you all come back from your break. And guess what? We have a winner. So, congrats to we have Meet from Sheridan College. We will reach out to you in the upcoming days for shipping information. So, make sure to check your email. And yeah, hopefully you all come back, and I will pass it over to Sarah. Just before that, remember to attend all of the four session and make an app. And by doing this, you will get a Google Merch voucher, and you can use it in the official Google Merch store. Sarah, it's over to you. You're muted. You're on mute.
Oops. Welcome back. Sorry. We just finished up creating a birthday card app, the first part code lab in this particular pathway. And so we're going to go ahead and move on to adding an image to our Android app. So we can expand that and take this code lab as well. In this particular code lab, we already have all our prerequisites checked off because we're all here together working our way through these. And so in this code lab, we're going to learn how to add an image or photo to your Android app. We're going to learn how to display an image in your app using an image view. We're going to learn how to extract text into a string resource to make it easier to translate your app and reuse strings. And we are going to learn how to make your app usable for a large number of people, which is one of my favorite Android topics. And so what we're going to build is we're going to extend that happy birthday app that we just finished up with to also add an image. So let's go ahead and jump in. Lucky for us, our app is already set up because we just built it. And so we don't have to open it because we never closed it. But we do need to go ahead and add this image to our project. So if you click on the link inside step 1 in part 2, you will be taken to a birthday image on GitHub. And if you click download, you will see that. I am going to... So I'm going to jump back and open this in a window that's not in front of everyone. And so we will open that. When you download that, you can then right click and do save image as. And so you'll just want to save that somewhere that you can find it. It'll save as Android Party, which is what we're doing here. And so you can save that to somewhere like your downloads folder. You'll just want to remember that. And so now we want to go back into Android Studio. So switch over to Android Studio now that you have that image saved. And we're going to add that Android party into our project. And so in Android Studio, we're going to go to the top inside the navigation bar and go to View, and then Tool Windows, and then open up the Resource Manager. It's towards the bottom. This is, again, something that I did not know about until I was working through this code lab. So I was learning new things as well. So we'll go ahead and click Resource Manager, and it's going to open a new pane on the left side of our screen, replace that current project view. And so inside that, we want to click on the plus sign. It will be at the top left of the Resource Manager, and then choose to import drawables. So when we do that, we have an import box. And so we just want to remember and go to that location that we just saved that Android party for. And so I saved it to my downloads. I'm going to open that up and then click next and then import. I need to push allow. And so now the image has been successfully added. And so we see here in our pane, in our resource manager, that we now have the Android party image, as well as some other images that are already included in this app that we didn't have to add, which is like the IC launcher background and the IC launcher foreground, which together make the app icon for our happy birthday app by default. And so now we can switch back to the project view, which we can do one of two ways. We can go back to view and go through the tool windows, and find project, which is right at the top. Or along this very left-hand side, we see that resource manager is a little bit darker gray, and we can just click on project, which should be right above it. And so now we see our project view, and we just want to double check that that is in fact part of our resources now. And so if your your resource folder isn't already expanded, you can expand that and then see the drawable folder at the top, which is going to hold all of our different kinds of images. And when we expand that, we again see the exact same 3 files. We see our Android party, we see our foreground and our background for our Android, for our launcher icon. And so that is the end of step 2. And so we're going to move on to step 3. And like they're saying in the chat, if you have any questions at all, just feel free to drop those there and they will send them to me and we will talk about them. Okay, so now we have set up, we have now imported the image that we need. And so now we're going to add an image view to our application. In order to display an image in your app, it needs a place to be displayed. Just like we used the text view in the first part, our first code lab, to have a place to put our text, we're also going to use an image view in the second part to display images. And so in this task, in step number 3, we're going to add an image view to our app and set its image to the cupcake image we just downloaded. My preferred name is Android Party. And then we'll position it and adjust its size so that it fits the entire screen. So we're again going to be in that Android, or in our activity main. And so again, if your res isn't expanded, this time we're going to expand layout and we'll just double click on your activity main. Mine is already open from the last time. And again, if you need to move over to the design, we have code and split and design. So we're going to be on that design selection to use the layout editor. So this time in our palette, where we have all of our different image types of views that we can use, inside this common, we again see image view as one of our commons. So we can just drag and drop it directly into our the preview and put it there. And when you try to drop that image view into your layout, you'll see that it immediately should pop up how to pick a wizard to help you pick a resource. So we want to pick Android Party and just push OK. And so mine ended up in a very strange spot, not really where I was trying to drop it. So this is going to add the image to our app, but it's probably not in the right place. Mine obviously is not, and it doesn't fill the screen. And so we're going to fix that in the next couple of steps. So first we want to position and size the image view. So we're going to drag on the image view so we can click on it and drag it up. And so we see kind of how it can align with these bounds. So we see the blue rectangle, which is our image, and the bounds of our emulator, which is going to be the pink box. The pink is actually our constraint layout, which in this case is exactly the size of our screen. So I'm just going to kind of try to align it with that pink box and drop it off there. So you should also be about this step. Actually, you need to push mine a little bit lower so that we can see this next step happen. So now mine is no longer perfectly aligned with this box, but I can now make that happen. So we're going to, as you see that blue outline, again, representing our image view, there's a little dot circle at the top. And so we can put our mouse over that dot and click on it. And then we see that we can connect it to other dots that show up on our screen. And so this is representing connecting different constraints. So I'm going to connect it to the top of my constraint layout, so the parent layout, just like we kind of did with those text views. But you can see how I could connect the top of this image to the bottom of this text. I could also connect it to the top of that text, but we're going to select the top of our constraint layout and connect there. So mine, again, jumped up just a little bit. So this is a different way for us to add constraints to a view through the layout editor. Last time we did this by using the widget over in our attributes. And so this time we're just we're connecting the different slides in the design itself. And we could do the same with this one. It doesn't really need to do much. And so if I click back on my image view, I also want to go ahead and set the bottom, which is not yet constrained, so I can see the other view. But I can open up my layout and see my constraints and go ahead and add. And we see that both the top and the bottom are now constrained with 0 padding, which is what step 3 should say if you look in the code lab. You can also always come into this layout and add them here as well. The next kind of like tip in our code lab is if you do get your constraints wrong, you can always clear those constraints and try again. So you can, to do that, you can Control Z and it will undo the last constraint that you set, or Command Z on a Mac, Control Z on Windows to undo that last thing, or you can always right-click on the individual view, and it's going to pop up a menu, and you can choose Clear Constraints of Selection, and that will remove all the constraints on the view as well. In the Attributes tab, in the layout, we're now also going to add 0 to both of our sides. So now our particular image is constrained on all 4 sides. So the top is constrained to the top, the bottom to the bottom, the start to the start, and the end to the end for this particular image view. So now we see that our image is centered, but it isn't taking up the whole screen yet. And so that is the next thing that we're going to go ahead and fix. So inside our attributes, we are going to now look at the declared attributes. So if we open that up, we see that we have this layout width and this layout height, and these are both set to wrap content. Wrap content means it's going to be the smallest size based on the size of the content that it's around, hence the name wrap content. If we go ahead and look at the layout width, we're going to change that to 0 dp, which is shorthand for matching the constraint. So in our layout width, we can do this drop down and we see match constraint and wrap content. So we're going to go ahead and change that now to 0 dp, which is saying match constraint. It's going to fill any of the room left beside ignoring things like margins. So margins are going to push our constraint size in a little bit, but that 0 dp just means fill all the space available on this particular axis. So width is obviously the horizontal axis, and the layout height would be saying fill all the space along that vertical axis. We can also set the layout height again to 0 dp using that dropdown. And so now the image is as wide and as tall as the app screen because our parent layout, the constraint layout, is filling out the whole app screen. But the image is still centered inside the image view, and there's a bunch of white space above and below the image. So actually changing those two things didn't do a whole lot for us just yet. Since that doesn't look very attractive, we're now going to change the scale type of this image view, which says how the image should kind of fill the space available to it. We can read more about the scale type and the developer reference guide, which is going to be linked from this code lab. So if you want to learn a little bit more, you can go through those links and find more resources. So they show us what our app currently looks like, and mine matches, and so should yours. And so we can now find the scale type. This is not in our declared attributes, so we're going to have to go down to the all attributes. And so we see that there is going to be a lot of attributes available. We can scroll through, they're all in alphabetical order. You can also search them as well. So I'm just going to scroll down to scale type. And so I find scale type and the S's. And so I can do a drop down and I see lots of different options. We can test different ones. So we can do something like fit XY. It stretches it out in a weird way. And so fit XY, for example, stretches your image to fit the constraints that you already have. So it got a little bit taller than it should be because I had extra room on the top and bottom for that image to be stretched. Now I can do fit center. And so that's where I was set up before. So it takes the entire image without changing anything about it and puts it right in the center of its view. So we have exactly the same space above as we do below. And now we can change it to the scale type that we're going to actually be using, which is going to be our center crop. So let's drop it down one more time and do center crop. And so that doesn't change the aspect ratio of this image. It just keeps blowing it up until it fills the full image view. So in our case, it keeps stretching keeps making the image bigger, maintaining its aspect ratio until the height matches the full space available to us. So we actually cut off a lot of image on both the left and the right side that would extend beyond the edges as this image is scaled. So when you're done setting that scale type, you should see your image filling the entire screen without distorting it. But what we do notice now is that we don't see our text anymore. And so that's now our next step, is we're going to move our image view behind our text. After making the image view fill the screen, you can't see our text anymore. This is because the image now covers up the text. It turns out that the order of our UI elements is going to matter because it depends on how they're going to get drawn. As we add our text views first and then our image view, it means it went on top of our text. And so when we add our views to the layout, they're continuously adding to the end of the list. So if we look at our component tree, we see image view is the last thing in that component tree. And so if you're following along in the code lab, or if you want to quickly switch over to the code lab, they have a really nice animation of how this is actually going to be drawn by the Android operating system. So it first adds our text view, Happy Birthday Sam, to our layout. Then it adds the next thing in our component tree, which is from Sierra in my case. And then it finally adds our image view. And so that image view, because of how we're setting it up, does cover everything else. And so we can easily fix this by saying, hey, let's draw that image view first. And so in our component tree, we can just drag and drop and change the order there. So let's switch back over to Android Studio if you looked at your code lab. And we'll just click on that image view and drag it up. And you'll see a little line showing you where it's going to land through that the list of different views in our constraint layout. And so I just want to put it all the way at the top. And so now my order is image view, text view, and text view 2, which represents my Android party, Happy Birthday Sam, and from Sierra. And so after that change, I now see my image filling the entire screen. I see my two text. So we have now successfully added an image to our Android application. And so with this, we are going to move on to section 4, which is going to be adopting good coding practices. And that will be the last thing that we do today. So we can go ahead and click next. And so the first thing that we're going to do is fix, what we're going to do in this section is fix all of these different warnings that we have as we've kind of coded along. So we have image warnings on our two texts that say hard-coded text. And we also have a warning on our image view that says image without content description. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about our strings. So when we write Android apps, it's important to remember that they may be translated into other languages at some point. A lot of applications are used around the world. As we learned in an earlier code lab, a string is a sequence of characters like what we have here, Happy Birthday Sam and from Sierra. A hard-coded string is one that is written directly into the code of your app. Hard-coded strings make it more difficult to translate your app into other languages and harder to reuse a string in different places in your application. And I think we've actually mentioned these in earlier Android study jams. We can deal with those issues by extracting strings into a resource file. This means that instead of hard-coding the string into our code, you can put that string in a file, give it a name, and then use that name whenever we want to use that string. The string will stay the same even if you change the string or translate it to a different language. So if we click on this orange warning, we see our hard-coded string pane pop up from the bottom. And here we see some warnings about using a string resource. And we can go ahead and click Fix at the bottom. And so that is going to extract that resource for us and do some of the code behind the scenes. So I actually want to start with our first hard-coded text and click Fix. And so when you see that wizard to extract that resource, the first thing is going to say resource name. And so that's the name that you're giving it in your resource strings file. And so instead of saying Happy Birthday Sam, I'm going to update mine to Happy Birthday Text. The resource value is the value of that string in this particular case. So it's actually going to be that Happy Birthday, Sam exclamation point. It's going into our main source set. And then the file name that it's going into is string. And we don't want to change those two things. And so we can go ahead and push OK. And now if we look at our attributes, all the way at the top in our declared attributes, we see It's hard to see all these things. We should see the text attribute is now, here it is. In our declared attributes, we now see that the text attribute has changed from where we hard-coded it earlier, from happy birthday, comma, Sam, and it now says @string happy birthday text. So it's now automatically using that new resource. And now we can do the same thing for our other text view, and we can do fix there, and we can just call that the from text as well, and push OK. And again, that text is automatically updated from Sierra to @string from text. We can also open up that strings file and see that file directly. So inside our res folder, if we expand the values, we see a strings file.xml. And so if I double click on that, I see the app name, happy birthday. That is automatically added as a string in our application when we spin up the project using our empty activity wizard. And then we see the two strings I have also now added, which is the happy birthday text, and we see the value, happy birthday Sam, in between that string, those string brackets. And we also see the from text with from Sierra there in my case. And so now anywhere in my application that I might want to use the text from Sierra, I can just use @string / from _ text instead of hard coding that string throughout my application. The next thing that we're going to do, and the last thing that we're going to do, is go back into our activity main. So I switched over, and we have one other warning, which is on our image view. So if we have our pane open, or if you click on that warning label, you see image without content description, and we can again expand that and get a little bit more information. And what this says is that the content description on an image view is really important for folks who might be using a screen reader to go through our application. Android has some really great accessibility features like Android Talkback, where you can interact with applications by hearing the Talkback read through different content using things like the text on your screen for text views, the button text for a button with a label, and also these content descriptions for these visual effects on our screen. And when we're building applications, we have to decide if we want great question. So we have a quick question about string name. So if we jump back to our strings file, our string, the format of this is string, which tells us that the type that's going to be holding is a type string, which makes sense because we were extracting a string from our layout. Then the name is going to be the name that we've given it. So this is the name that we're going to use throughout the application. So anytime that we want to use the string, happy birthday Sam, so that's the value, we're going to be able to use this string, the string resource name, happy birthday, happy _ birthday _ text, a mouthful to get out. So this is the resource name, happy birthday text, and this, what's in between here is the resource value. And so that's the actual string's value. And so whenever we use that @string resource name, the value that we're going to be able to actually see and use in our application is going to be the string value inside those tags. So let's jump back into activity main, finish up with our content description, our discussion about content description. In this particular case in our application, this is just the background. It doesn't add any extra context to our application. The main message from our application that we want our users to be able to interact with is that it says, happy birthday, Sam, and from Sierra. So in this case, we're going to change the attribute on the image view for important for accessibility and set that to no. So if I go ahead and close my warning window and see all of my attributes, we can scroll down again to important, as everything is alphabetical. So we find important for accessibility, and we can do the drop down there, and we can just set that to no. And now the little warning label goes away. So that's a decision that you want to make every time you add an image view to your application, is whether that image adds some important context for your users, in which case we want to add a content description to that image, or if it's just decorative, or if it's just a decorative image, then we can set the important for accessibility to no, and the screen reader won't read it at all. So now we can run our final application. We haven't run it in a while. We've mostly hung out on the editor and trusted it would show up okay. So we're going to terminate the current version and run that on our emulator. And we see our happy birthday, Sam, our beautiful background that we just learned how to add in this code lab and from Sierra at the end. Similar to the last one, if we jump back over to our code lab, which I'm just going to pull down from here. We just finished up section 4. We can go through section 5, 6, and 7 very quickly. In section 5, a reminder that all this code is available online. If you want to go through their solution again, it's out on their GitHub. Let's go through a quick summary of what we learned in this particular session, which is that we learned that the Resource Manager in Android Studio helps you add and organize your images and other resources. An image view is a UI element for displaying images in your app. Image views should have a content description to help make your app accessible or be set to important for accessibility to know if they don't add any extra context. And text is shown to the user, like the birthday greeting, should be extracted into a string resource to make it easier to translate your app into other languages and also for reusability. If you want to learn more about any of these concepts, you can again check out the vocabulary for Android Basics, look at the Resource Manager documentation for Android Studio, jump right into the image view documentation. Android has excellent resources on how to make your app more accessible, and so you can check those out as well. Support for different languages, which will tell you a lot about the strings files, and getting started with GitHub if you haven't used GitHub before. And then unlike our last code lab, there is a practice on your own. Practices are optional, as they call out, but they recommend that you may consider doing the following, which is creating a new birthday card app based on your own design. Start by thinking about what kind of views you might use, what order is the easiest in that component tree, just like we saw earlier, what images you might need to add, and then check your work. After you finish building out your new application, run it and make sure it runs. And then you're done by creating your own birthday card app as well. So with that, we are now also done with this section of the code lab. Done. Land back on our Android Basics. Make sure you take the quiz so you can get all of your badges. And with that, back over to our host to wrap us up for the evening.
Thank you. Wow, that was amazing. I'm so excited to create my own birthday app and messing around with the style and the text and the color. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah, for making this smooth, easy, fun. And we're so happy to having you over here. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone. So congratulations to everyone who following along with us. You made your birthday app. Make sure to take the quiz to earn the badges. I have actually 2 of them. If you don't set up your developer profile yet, do it now and highlight your progress there. Share it with your friend. Post it on your LinkedIn. And yeah, that's amazing. Also, if you enjoy the session as much as I did, talk about it on social media. Tell your friend to join us next week. I don't know, use Android Study Jam. Post your progress there, post your badges, talk about us. And yeah, spread the word. As a developer, we all know that we don't stop learning, right? So it's a forever journey. So always first, make sure to always join us, to join the Android Study Jam, to expand your knowledge and to make to be an Android developer. Also, can you go back to the previous slides for a second? Just I want to highlight that you can always check Learn Kotlin by Example to learn more for more advanced feature. Also, make sure to check these links to professional developer use to post articles and read on most update features on Android. And yeah, join us next week, Wednesday, same time from 7 to 8. If you have any questions, comments, anything, please feel free to post them in the chat. We're always happy to hear from you guys. Thank you again, Sarah, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I hope everyone did. I'm 100% sure that everyone enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you again.